close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played. No, I don't want no rest. Echoing around these walls, fighting to create a song.
Hello everyone, how you doing? Is all right? Welcome to Newcastle Fans TV. Sorry about that bit of the intro there, just learning as you go. So, to everyone who has downloaded this on the iTunes and also on SoundCloud as well, so that is available to downgrade that as well. And then this is a bit of a first. We're doing a live podcast. We've already got the audio clips from everybody else as well, and as you all know, I've just got to get this out of the way that this video, of course, is sponsored by the One Football app, an absolutely fantastic app which is ahead of a lot of the mainstream apps that you might use. Pretty obvious with those, but please download it. It's free. It actually helps us and the lesser fortunate ones amongst the group get to away games. So we've got loads to talk about, and as you can tell by the title of this podcast, it's off the field. So we're not going to be talking about any games at all. We'll be interacting with you in the live chat as well, and of course anybody who's watching on YouTube and the rerun as well, get your comments in down below as well, and the live chat. So off the field, what we're doing is we're going to go all the way back. We're going to take it all the way back to just when we got beat off Manchester United. Now, we know it was a difficult period just before Christmas. You know, we had the full-time Devils come up as well, and you know, the mood amongst camp wasn't very optimistic, shall we say. We're going to be hearing from four other lads. We've got Will, Johnny, Kyle and Paul. We're all going to hear from each one of them, and we've got, I think it's 14 topics just to rattle through. And the first one, as I was saying then, is the Man United one as well. Is, you know, we came out with that game and we felt very deflated. And we're asking everybody around the ground who came and chatted with, what's your mood like? How are you feeling? Are you optimistic going into January? And a lot of people just weren't at all. And this is what Will said about that. And does he have faith in the board? And this is what Will said.
In terms of the fans feeling no faith with the board in terms of transfers, they have every right to be. Since Rafa's been here, Mike Ashley's thinking seems to be more angled towards Rafa not needing as much as maybe a Pardew or McLaren in terms of players to keep Newcastle in the Premier League, which seems to be his only interest. And based on more recent history, especially since we've been in the Premier League, there's not really been that much evidence to suggest that Mike Ashley is moving trees in order to make sure that Rafa Benitez stays at St James's Park. If he was, then we would be signing a lot more, and we wouldn't have to sell players before we buy. In the summer, we made profit, which we've talked about many, many times, and it looked as though that this window was going to be the same until we spent late on in the window.
Interesting what he's just said there. Now, as I was saying before, just before you know, coming up towards the transfer deadline days, we had a lot of games in December, and you know, when we're going into January, we were just looking at it and thinking, we've got no hope. We're not expecting anybody to come in at this point, and he agrees with a lot of the majority of Newcastle fans that when we were going into January, we were like, we just got to be safe. We just got to be safe. That the motion was just sucked out of us. It was a very difficult time beating Newcastle because we were losing a lot of games. We knew that there was no money. Well, the money wasn't being spent, and it was just a really, really difficult time. Frustration, and that's probably why you're probably seeing a couple of daft idiots wanting Rafa out, just overreacting. So let us know what you guys think who are watching, obviously in the live chat as well. Now, also, just speaking of Will, because we're going to hear from Will a couple of times more, is that we're going to talk a little bit about Isaac Hayden. Now, this is around about the time, just shortly after the Man United game, that Isaac Hayden came out and said, I want to leave the club. And it annoyed a lot of us at Newcastle Fans TV, probably you as well, is that he said this 2-3 times already, and he just needs to stop saying it. And credit to him, Will gives him credit in just a moment, and this is what Will said about Isaac Hayden. I was a little bit surprised when he actually gave him credit, but when I look back at it and listen to it, I can understand it.
We've known that Isaac Hayden wanted to leave Newcastle since the summer, and it seems to be more for personal reasons rather than maybe not playing as much. He's not really throwing his toys out the pram for not getting his move, which you really do have to admire. I think he understands the club are in a certain situation, and that in the summer, I think we were saying this at the time, that for Hayden to be moved on, a replacement had to be secure, and with the record that Mike Ashley has in terms of transfers, there was no guarantee of that whatsoever. In January, he said again that he wanted to leave, which I think the club do appreciate, but at the minute that wasn't possible. But credit to Isaac Hayden for knuckling down and getting on with the job and putting in some really good and important performances while we've had an injury crisis. We did try to get a replacement in order to allow Hayden to move further down south, but that wasn't possible. So I just hope that he continues the work ethic that he's been putting in, and in the summer maybe the situation can be sorted.
What do you reckon? Because he has come out and he's been, obviously him and Sean Longstaff were main two in midfield, because let's face it, we've got no midfield at the moment. Yes, I know the Wolves game's it's coming nicely because we've got our bodies coming back for the Wolves game, but at this present moment we were like, we don't want to play on that starting lineup. Come on, we don't want him in that lineup because he wants away. Will he have his all? And there's question marks around Isaac Hayden at the time. Now, Will's obviously given credit because he's knuckled down and just got on with it. I had a couple of good games in January. Longstaff has obviously played a consecutive 7, I believe I read that somewhere earlier on today. So he's knuckled down, but we'll have got money coming in hopefully at the end of the season, and it's probably a position that we need strengthened. I know we've got the likes of Diarmi, Key, possibly Shelby all back for the Wolves game, but because Hayden had to play, he's done alright. But for me, I don't want him in that side, and that might be a little bit controversial. I just don't want him anywhere near that match day 18 squad. And when we get the bodies back, for me, Hayden has to drop out completely. For me, even though he's been playing in a team which has been doing alright as well. Now, we're going to bring on to the third topic, which is the open letter. There seem to be loads of open letters, and we were part of one of them, which, we went on and did a promo for BT Sports. There was accusations about fans were going to cancel. In fact, some fans actually have went and cancelled their season tickets. Again, this goes back to the bad feeling probably after the Man U game as well, that a lot of fans just weren't happy. There was protests, then there wasn't a protest because they thought that the takeover was going to happen and so on. But there was a lot of letters. There was the Peter Kenyon letter. There was a letter that we were associated with as well, with the likes of the Magpie Group and so on. And it was a case, I think what we looked at it when we put our names forward for it is that we wanted to at least try something different. And people, like I say, have been trying to protest, have tried to do this, try to do that. Is it enough? Maybe not. But this is what Will said about that open letter.
What the open letter did achieve was demonstrating what the fans were feeling at the time that we felt the manager wasn't being backed, and that the board were not taking the necessary steps taken in order to keep this fantastic manager that we have, and therefore not doing what was best for the football club. I think things were manifesting itself. We were seeing towards the end of the transfer window that people were cancelling season tickets. Rafa was looking a bit gloom, and seemingly it was all looking as though that Rafa was going to leave. The signing of Miguel Almiron has done a lot to appease that. It'll give them some leverage and hopefully convince Rafa that there is some more potential here. But you were seeing how things were developing and how things were boiling over. The protests that were planned for the Manchester City game, which in the end didn't really happen. But if Almiron if Almiron hadn't been on his way to Newcastle, I think it would have manifested itself even more, and would have led to even bigger protest and more anger towards the board and to the football club.
Right. So I think with with more or less the open letter side of things, I think it was just, it was one of them things that we looked at it and thought, okay, it can't harm nothing. If it brings bad publicity to Mike Ashley, do it. Do you know what I mean? Anything that gives him bad publicity, and he's probably sitting there, don't get me wrong, he's probably sitting there laughing away at all of us for all of the the efforts that this person does or that group does or we do or that or whatever, but at least it was something, and there's probably going to be maybe something else before the end of the season. I think fans are easy to criticise other fans quite easily, whether you're a fan media like ourselves, whether you're a fanzine, or whether you're just a normal fan who doesn't get involved. Anything, fans always get criticised. Fans get criticised for being too honest. Fans get criticised for being at a home game but don't go away games. Fans get criticised. You know what I mean? It's just a circle. You cannot win with a fan base. I personally feel that anyways. But like I said, it brought the attention of Mike Ashley. For me, that can only be a good thing. He doesn't like it. We've seen it. He was rattled at the Sports Direct AGM meeting a few months back as well in London. He was very rattled by that, and I think that's something for me personally I would like to be part of as a group, to be part of as well in targeting Sports Direct. We know that it went pear-shaped when it was meant to happen, and Magpie Group got a lot of criticism for that as well, but at least they're trying, and you've got to respect that. Whether you think it's right or wrong, you have to respect that. Now, more negativity. You just like negativity, don't you? It's what you make Newcastle United, isn't it? Let's quickly read a couple of your live chat as well before we move on to Johnny, who's been there waiting. So Nathan says the open letter was a good thing. At least it's something. We should do a sit-in protest. That's a good shout, Nathan. Maybe that needs a little bit better organised for me. And Jody says last day of the season, Ashley will come back with a copy and paste statement. And Chris asks, do you think Mike Ashley will spend big again in the summer and so on next? Well, we'll talk about Rafa Benitez later on in the podcast. So Chris, that might answer your question. Now we're going to move over to Johnny. Now, we were down Stamford Bridge, and our phones were all pinging saying, oh, you can't believe what Rio Ferdinand said. Can you believe it? Rio Ferdinand said this, he's backing Mike Ashley. I was like, Rio Ferdinand backing Mike Ashley? Give over. Now I had just learned, and I think a couple of others had learned, that I didn't know personally that he had a label inside Sports Direct. I didn't know that. I presume a lot of Newcastle fans didn't know at that time, because I didn't know. And it's quite clearly that Rio Ferdinand was backing Mike Ashley because it's his business partner. You're not going to criticise your business partner on national TV. Was he ill-advised? This is what Johnny said about the Rio Ferdinand comments.
I don't believe Rio Ferdinand was reckless. I think he just didn't have all the facts. I don't think he knew a lot about what was going on from a Newcastle fan perspective, about a Newcastle player perspective, or from Rafa Benitez. I think he just solely saw what it was from Mike Ashley's perspective, and I think he got it completely wrong. And I think it was evident when he put that fish emoji to the Newcastle fans, mainly on Twitter, and I think that's really, really shown that next time when he talks about Newcastle, he needs to get his facts right. Obviously now you can look at the fact that Mike actually spent a little bit of money with Miguel Almiron. He might have a little bit more to play with, but still there's not enough investment at all at Newcastle United. And I think Rio Ferdinand and Richard Keys, to an extent, need to look at themselves when they're doing stuff like this on TV, because they're going to get a lot of negative feedback off Newcastle fans, because it is, so important to Newcastle fans in this area about what people say about the football club. And Rio Ferdinand got it completely wrong for the BT Sport against Chelsea the other week.
So I think he is right in what he says, that we get quite offended quite easily, don't we, when somebody like someone who, in particular, somebody who doesn't have a association with the club, when someone like, for example, if Alan Shearer speaks bad against Newcastle, he can understand a little bit more. I know Shola Ameobi done it on Sky, and that was probably a one-off. But overall, I think Rio Ferdinand, he just doesn't get it. He ever just doesn't get it. Or of course, he's backing Mike Ashley, possibly both, in some aspects. And when he just came out, and obviously we looked at it and thought, well, wait a minute, you can't come out and say that. Maybe you should come out and blast Rio Ferdinand. But we all thought, yeah, at Newcastle Fans TV, No, let's be a little bit more classy than that. You don't need to go and do that. But I think he's really well ill-advised, and if you say stupid stuff, you've seen it with Richard Keys. If you are trying to be relevant like Richard Keys on Rio Ferdinand, you'll get attacked by Newcastle fans. You will get attacked for being absolutely stupid, for actually saying ridiculous amount of things about Newcastle when you're not even associated. That's what bugs me personally about that as well. Now we're going to come off that. I'm going to keep on Johnny as well. We're going to talk about, because we're now moving off that, and this is when transfers were starting to slowly happen. So the first one we're going to talk about is the Liam Gibson move from the under-23s to Accrington Stanley. Now we know that he had a bad injury. He was out for a long time, illness, sorry. And we know his brother moved to Everton a year and a half back as well. And I think it's a good move from him. And this is what Johnny said about Liam Gibson's move to Accrington Stanley.
You know, you want young players to go out there and, you know, turn into a man, playing the man's game, essentially. I think it's a good level for him, League One. I think he can go out there and express himself. I thought he was one of the better players when Newcastle under-21s took on Sunderland's first team. And I think all it'll do is help him going in the future. You know, if Rafa stays, hopefully, he might get a chance in maybe the League Cup games or in the pre-season friendlies at the start of the season to impress. But I think League One football for any young lad trying to break through is a very good standard. And it might be a case that if he does well there, you know, if it's not the first team at Newcastle, maybe Championship football on loan the season after, and I think that will help him with his development in the future.
What do you reckon? I think it's a good move for him. A League One as well, that's a good level. You know what I mean? So I thought he might drop to maybe a conference or possibly like a League Two side, but Gibson's went out on loan, and I think it'll be good for him because, you know, Accrington have been picking up a couple of our players of late as well, and in particular, you know, you've got Dan Barlaser, Luke Charman as well. So I think he'll do well at Accrington, and we just want to see him play games. I think it'll be good because if we can get him back at pre-season, perhaps Rafa might look at him and maybe one of those cases think, you know what, we've got an issue at left back. I don't know what's going to happen with Barreca, whether he signs permanently or not. Lazar obviously hasn't really got a future at the club. Maybe, you never know, he might get an odd game here and there. He's definitely got potential, and of course, you know, he's from Stanley, which isn't a million miles away from Newcastle as well. Let's have a quick look at the live chat before we move on to the next topic as well. Chris says, I heard that 21 million Almiron was a bank loan that Mike Ashley made for Rafa. Yeah, there is that doubt about that transaction from Barclays, isn't it, which is a bit of a worry mind. Have a dig at the club, then it's having a go at 52,000 of us. Yeah, that's true, Geordie. Good point. Nathan says Liam Gibson is a good move for Accrington. Will help him as a player. Chris also agrees with that, and Geordie says he thinks he's got the potential. He's came back from illness. I just hope Rafa will give the lad a chance, because I'd love to see more local lads in the team. And it is nice. That's a good point by Geordie's made there, is that you want the local lads to start coming through. Now we've got Sean Longstaff, and we've been starved because Armstrong's been loaned out for a couple of years, really, if Geordie's coming for the team. And you've only really got to look at what Paul Dummett is your regular coming from there. So, you know, we're going to come off that now and move over to, is the takeover on, is the takeover off, it's off, it's on, it's off, it's on. You're sick of hearing about it. I'm sick of hearing about it. You'll be sick of it. Everybody is as well. Is the takeover on? No, it's not. It's off. Is it on? It's just constant. And it gets to the point now, do you believe anything that the media put? Johnny?
I think the Daily Mail, like every other newspaper, are wanting clickbaits, essentially. They want, you know, people to look at what they've written. I think there is an element of truth in what they said. I do believe that the takeover is stalling. Obviously, speaking to people that who know a little bit more, I think generally that is the case. I think that Peter Kenyon's bid is stalling and it is taking longer than people thought. Is the takeover completely off? Well, Mike Ashley's never really come up with an update. He's never said that Newcastle's not for sale, and possibly, you know, that part of it isn't true. However, the Daily Mail will, just like any other newspaper, if whatever information they're going to get told, they're going to put it out there because they want to be the first newspaper to get it to people so people can read it. Maybe they just need to be a bit more careful next time, because Newcastle are very close to maybe doing something in terms of a takeover if a right bid comes. And I think if a bid comes in that Mike Ashley finds acceptable, then the likes of the Daily Mail will look and thinking, oh, we might need to change the story very, very quickly.
So that was Johnny's thought on that. Now, it's one of them, isn't it? I mean, I don't think people know personally. I think it's a lot about getting clicks. I just don't believe it, and a lot of fans are just sick of hearing about, is it happening? Is it not happening? You know what I mean? And I just didn't like it. I really don't. It's frustrating because I just think that with the Kenyan drama, with Mike Ashley, you know, Ashley came out in Sky News. We know this as well. And that was big news in December. I just don't think you've got to believe it until you see it. Like, for example, with the Almiron deal, which we'll talk about shortly, is when Almiron stepped off that helicopter. That's when I went, he's coming. That was proof that it was happening. You know, Keith Downey was there. We're going to be talking about Keith in a moment. Serena Taylor was there, photographer, and you knew it was happening. You just knew that, come on board, you can do this. Until you see Peter Kenyon or whoever who comes in, it's rubbish. It really is rubbish, and a lot of them, for me, get clicks, because basically that's how nowadays the media get paid. As you go onto an article, there's several of adverts pop up left, right and centre. Ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. Thank you very much for a payday. Do some valid research. If you are going to make up a story, at least give us the source. You know what I mean? Let's read a couple of your chat before we move on as well. Ali Khan, hey Ali, how you doing? Rafa could be off at Arsenal if Emery gets a sack. I think so. It would be a long list. Yeah, this is the thing. Rafa is always going to be linked to big jobs, no matter whether he's got a 3-year contract or a 1-month contract. He's always going to be linked. We're just going to have to get used to it. Troops, who's a regular comment, say, Troops, you alright, mate? Where have you gone? I've missed the comment. Sorry, man. It's just literally gone off my screen. Mike Ashley's wasting over buys, says Chris. Nathan says the takeover was always off. It was never going to happen. Liam says it's a PR stunt, trying to get the fans to start protesting. But, you know, we've got to put more and more pressure on the board, he says. Chris again says Mike Ashley's playing games, and Peter Kenyon. Where's that gone? Peter Kenyon, who else is interested? So let's have a look. So Kenny Dalglish brought the Blackburn Magic. Newcastle United are used to be a big club since Shearer and Bobby retired as well. So the next one is we're going to come off, and if I just scroll down and have the clip ready for you guys as well, which doesn't want to load, that's perfect timing, is about Elias Sorensen. Now, Elias Sorensen, what a prospect he is, isn't he? 19 goals in the under 23s the first half of the season. Had a fantastic relationship with Carl Roberts. Roberts in the 10, 12 goals. Sorensen 19 goals for the first half of the season. That's mint. That is really, really mint. I said it yesterday's stream that Carl Roberts on loan, he's a free agent, and you look at a couple of lower league clubs, if he doesn't sign at Newcastle, you're getting a player there. But Sorensen would know that he signed a 3-year deal. There was a little bit worried that he wouldn't go on and sign it, because he was also a free agent in the summer, but he signed it, which is fantastic. And then he went to play to go to the Denmark under 21s, because he missed playing against Sunderland's first team. He went and scored on his debut for the Danish under 21s, and then he scored in the next game as well, and then he got his move to Blackpool. So it all happened in the space of about a week to 10 days for Sorensen, but he's a huge prospect, and I'd love to know what everyone thinks in the live chat about Sorensen. Johnny?
I think this is actually a good move for Sorensen. I think a lot of Newcastle fans were thinking, because of Hosler's poor form, especially in the cup games, that he should be given an opportunity. However, going out to a League One side like Blackpool, I think the fact it's competitive football, week in, week out, not like the under-23s where, you know, it's a little bit more laid back. I think that'll actually help him more. You know, if he can get some goals, it'll help him massively. And he can understand what the game's all about, essentially. He's going to be with experienced professional footballers who have been there, done that, and have played at maybe the highest level in their careers. He gets to experience that very, like hands-on, essentially. But maybe I think the best tip was feet on, hopefully it was these feet doing the talking. But I would say, look, a bit like Mitrovic last year, set a target of how many goals you're going to score from now to the end of the season, and see if he can do it. Because if he does that, maybe Blackpool get into the playoffs and get promoted, and that'll look really, really good on his very young footballing CV.
So should Elias Sorensen set himself a goal scoring record for Blackpool? You know, the lad is, like I say, has had a dynamite first six months in the under 23s. And a lot of people are forgetting as well that Sorensen stepped up for the under 18s up to the under 23s, which is a massive ask as well. So, you know, Johnny was saying there as well that, you know, it's a different league, a competitive league. He's playing against professional men who are on probably 5 to 10 grand a week in some of them aspects as well. Nathan's saying there that Elias Sorensen is a great player. When he comes back from next season, we should give him a chance. I think he will, Nathan. I think what will happen is in pre-season, I think he'll integrate in the first team. Hopefully, goes to Ireland and starts to play maybe a couple of pre-season games. See how he is. If Rafa just thinks, okay, you're not quite ready, son, fine, that's not a problem. Get him loaned out again. Get him loaned out as well. So it's a massive prospect, and you're pinning the hopes on the lad. And look, we've looked down the years at Adam Armstrong, Campbell, Carroll have all graduated from the under 23s and didn't really hit the heights. Carroll probably is the best one, I would probably say, in recent years, because we've got a daft fine. Liverpool were prepared to pay 35 million for him, so which is just mental. But hopefully grab some goals. I'm looking forward to see how he progresses as well. And we'll keep an eye on him. I'll jump on the Facebook page, Newcastle Fans TV, where the lads always keep up to date with what's going on as well. Now, we're going to come off Johnny, so we'll say goodbye to Johnny, and we'll bring Paul into the equation. Paul's behaved, believe it or not. You know what Paul's like. If you've ever seen his video, any of his videos or anything like that, you know what Paul's like. But Paul's going to be talking about Chianora, Jordan Lukaku, Antonio Barreca, and Mikel Almiron. So we've got a few to talk through as well. And the first one is Chianora. The videos on our YouTube channel is when and I like it because she went down to represent Newcastle fans in Parliament, and she spoke well. She stood up for a good 15 minutes. Mind you, I didn't like what the Tory MP said back to her. If you haven't seen it, watch it. She basically turns around and says that under no illusion that the Tory MP, whatever her name is, turned around and said that Mike Ashley, as far as she's aware, isn't doing anything legally speaking wrong at the club. Morally, we all know that's definitely not the case. But this is Paul's thoughts on Chianora.
Yeah, I think it's commendable what she's done and taking the fight all the way down to the Houses of Parliament. However, really disappointed in the turnout. There was literally one man and the dog in the Houses of Parliament when this was being debated, and it wasn't really taken seriously enough. You know, this is a major problem up here, and for a handful of people to turn up, I think is absolutely disgusting. And the response of the government benches as well was truly pathetic, absolutely pathetic. And for a man that they have called in numerous times to answer questions about his Sports Direct, I thought there would be more interest. But I think obviously the local MP for Newcastle Central should be commended with the fight, the time and the effort that she's put in, not only to this but to other aspects for the meetings across Newcastle, etc.
One man and a dog. He's got away with words, Paul, hasn't he? Yeah, look, it was disappointing seeing not many people in Parliament. I think there was something like 6 or 7 in the whole room. But you know what it is, I don't actually care how many people are in that room. What I care about is that MP is trying to fight our corner, and I like that. And yes, she'll probably get a lot of votes, and I'm not going to try and go political, but it's a very dominated Labour area in Newcastle. But she went there, stuck up for us, tried her hardest, respectfully. I like that. But what can you do? What can you do with this ownership? And I like the fact that she wants to get Mike Ashley investigated. And I think at least, someone should look at it from my personal perspective, because, I mean, there's something not right. Where's the money at? Where is the money at in the club? And what alarmed me is the amount of companies. What she said in Parliament is that she said there's up to 25 to 30 companies involved in Newcastle. That's massively, massively alarming for me, because where's the money going? Are they going to these small companies? Are we paying them off? Are we funding? Are we buying shops, retail for Sports Direct? Yes, we spent money on Mikel Almiron, which we'll talk about in a moment, but it's a bit fishy, isn't it? It's really, really fishy. So, moving off topic, Nathan says Shane Nora is good MP, just trying to get Ashley out. I like that, yeah, you Nathan, you're right. Jack asks, will you talk about Newcastle Wolves game? Not in this podcast. The videos are coming up shortly for that, so keep an eye on Newcastle Fans TV, the YouTube channel for that, for people who are listening on iTunes and SoundCloud. Now, we're going to come off that. We're going to talk about a failed transfer, which was Jordan Lukaku. Now, this was the first real sign of a player going to be coming into Newcastle, and I thought it was going to happen. But when I personally found out that the deal had fallen through, it was like typical Newcastle. We're going to get one loan signing in all window, and then fine, well, we're not going to bring anybody in. That's what everybody was thinking, let's face it. You're seeing it on Facebook, you're seeing it on Twitter, you're seeing it on YouTube. There's a lot of unhappy people. I mean, personally, for me, I had a little rant, I'm not going to lie. It's not so much about Lukaku, it was the fact of where is the money at, where is the money? And I know it's going back to Che Nora thing again, but the Jordan Lukaku deal was just a joke. Paul?
So the Jordan Lukaku deal falls through at literally the last minute because he fails a medical. It was an unbelievable turn of events to get a player to look into him, to scout him for all that time, and then to not know his medical history, to not know his injuries, to not know that he's out of shape and he wouldn't be up to match speed is absolutely unforgivable. And it's just typical of the administration that's at Newcastle United that we get to this. It's absolutely farcical, and you never hear it happening anywhere else but here. And then obviously Lazio have came out and said it's not the case, so you just never know, because anything that involves Lee Charnley is just an absolute joke. He's a waste of space and couldn't operate and couldn't run a tea service, never mind a Premier League football club.
Honestly, Paul, he's got some words with bloody Lee Charnley and everybody. So yeah, that was the first one that would fail, and we thought, oh, here we're gone. It's not happening. Paul's in the live chat if anybody wants to ask him that way. In the live chat there, Paul. But it was one of them. Just, it isn't happening. It just isn't happening. Look, we know that. Was he first choice? Was Barreca first choice? Who knows? I mean, there was some rumours going around. He had a big weight problem. He's a big lad, but Inzaghi, who's the manager of Lazio, turned around and said it's not actually he's fit, because he played for Lazio, and the week before he went over to Newcastle. So there's some people saying there was something wrong in his medical that was showing up that might happen. Potentially, something could happen with his knee or whatever it was. There was a few rumours going around. We didn't really hear officially why the Lukaku deal had fallen through. I know it's easy, and we're a little bit more happier about it now, because first of all, the medical staff have actually done the job. If that is the case, if that is the real reason, then fair play. However, we've signed Barreca, so it's not too bad. It's a bit of a sweet pill, you know what I mean? So, what we'll do now, Jody says, is Lukaku is injury prone as well. So we're going to go back to Paul as well. Paul's going to be talking about that man who I've just mentioned, is Antonio Barreca.
Antonio Barreca signs on loan through to the end of the season. Clearly, as discussed before with the Lukaku situation, not Rafa's first choice, probably not his second, third, fourth or fifth choice, to be honest. He's not had a great time. He's not played many games over in France. That is concerning, but in saying that, Rafa clearly sees something, I think, offensively. So we've got to trust him, because at the end of the day, this is the man who discovered Martin Dubravka. So you've got to give him a chance, see how he gets on, and see how we complement our counter-attacking style of football. So,
was he first choice? Was he second choice? He's probably seventh on that list, isn't he? Barreca. But, it's a signing. I was still like, oh, come on, man. However, it's a loan signing. Newcastle spend the money, and it was like, yes, we've got cover for Paul Dummett, which is great, which we'll see us towards the end of the season. I think Paul Dummett, once he is fully fit, whether it's the Wolves game or the one after, I think Dummett will play left back / maybe left wing back. I think it opens up Rafa Benitez's options for having Barreca. We know he came off the bench at Spurs, which I actually thought was a wrong call. I reckon he should have went two up top. However, he's in the door now, and it's his time to impress. He didn't get many game time under Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry was fired, we know this, but who do you blame there? Do you blame the player? Do you blame the manager? Probably a bit of both, but we'll have to see how he goes. What he does look like, he looks like he's very slim, good on the ball, can get up the pitch quick as well, so it'll be interesting what Paul's just said there. He said that can he get into our counter-attacking system, how we play, especially away from home. We'll have to see about Barreca. Let's have a look at what he's been saying about Barreca before we begin on Miguel Almiron. Speaking of Almiron, if you let us know in the live chat what's your initial thoughts on him, because the live chat is delayed from when I talk for about 30 seconds. So, Andy says, hello Andy, you alright? He says, hopefully you play well. Jordy's laughing, 6th, 7th or 8th choice. And then we'll come across Antonio Barreca, looks good player. It's good to have a good left back, and it gives us more options. That's Nathan as well. And Paul's in the live chat as well, who you've just heard from, saying Paul Dummett come back, gives us options to play 4-5 at the back. Barreca is a proper left wing back, and hopefully, that's what we want, because we've seen Richie play there, you've seen Kennedy playing there, you've even seen Kieran Clark have a spell at left back, which you just didn't want to happen. Mankiw was another one. Christ. Don't like the idea of Dummett at left wing back, is not good enough going forward, says Ollie. We could play a left centre back as well, but we are blessed at left centre back. Right, the big talking point is Miguel Almiron. Paul, over to you.
So yeah, Almiron signed eventually after about a year's worth of pursuit, after several weeks of the January transfer window. Typical Newcastle, we never do anything easy, but what we've got is a load of potential. He's a box-to-box player, he's got a great left foot, he's got a great shot, great free kicks. He's got lots and lots of pace and seems like good footballer to intelligence. He looks a bit Theo Walcott-esque. So we'll see how he gets on and see how he adapts to the physicality of the league. But I will just say, I think the watchword for this transfer is patience. We've got a player of undoubted quality, but we've got to be patient with him as he gets used to the physicality and style of the Premier League.
So, Miguel Almiron. Are you excited by him? Because when I get the general feelings, like, people are like, I don't know about him, but I think that's because not many people know about him. Look, everybody looks great on YouTube. In fact, you should never ever do YouTube scouting, never, because it's always positive. So, Paul says he reminds him of Theo Walcott. Hopefully he resembles like a younger Theo Walcott, not the Theo Walcott of today, but I can see it why, because it seemed to be a bit of a burst of energy which he could run through it. I think he's got probably a little bit more in his locker than what Walcott has, because we've seen it with free kicks. We can see that he can get back, also get up the pitch quickly and play, never mind out wide, he can play through the middle as well. So he looks more of a technical player as well as someone who can hit with. And I think it'd be great for away games. Home games, we'll have to see. I think he'll be on the bench for Wolves. I don't think he'll come and start. I know he's got his work permit, and the press conference is tomorrow for that. We'll get footage for you from that as well. I'm at the other end of the country. I'm down in Sky Studios, so it's the wrong place to be, because now the press conference is out. But more on that tomorrow. But it gives Rafa a lot of options, and I'm delighted that we've gone and bought the money. Chris Watt was saying that it's possibly 16 million. It actually hasn't broken the record yet. It will eventually. That's why the club haven't came out and said it's a club record. That's why I put on the graphic there with Paul that it's alleged club transfer as well. Let's have a look at your live chat as well. Almiron is great for the counter-attack system, says Paul. Ada says Papa Cisse is world class on YouTube. Anyone can look good on YouTube, says Liam. Andy says if Almiron plays in the number 10 role, then Shelby will have to start, as I think both of them would cause problems. And again, Andy, that goes back to giving Rafa loads of options, because you've got Mutu's coming back, you've got Shelby, Diarme, Key, Almiron, Dummett. You've got a lot of people coming back, and again it gives Rafa loads of options to keep Perez out on the right. More on the Wolves fixture coming up, because we're going to be talking about that as well. Paul says don't tell Dennis Wise about YouTube scouting as well. But I'm a little bit excited, but I think Paul is right in what he's saying there is, look, let's not get on his case. I think you can look at probably Florian Thauvin. I've always gone on record and I thought that he was rushed out the club too early for me. I thought McLaren couldn't handle him. Whatever you think of Thauvin, whether you think he's a great player or a poor player, for being in the club just for five months, doesn't show enough bottle from the club, from the management and the player itself. He went out on loan, and look at him, look at the player that he is now. Yes, I know it's League Earn. Yes, I know this. However, if we had that player now, Takeover would be absolutely brilliant. But what I'm trying to get at is, look, he might have a real poor start. I think he'll be slowly integrated. He's been in pre-season for Atlanta United. We've got a good relationship with the fan channel of Atlanta as well, but I think slowly integrate him, have a couple of substitute appearances, see how he goes, but just don't get on his back. I think that's the important thing. Let him settle. Happen in the summer. I know you probably want success right now because we're in that relegation fight, which is fantastic. I'll be like, great, we've got a bit of a talent here, but don't be too surprised if it does take a long time. And it's about time that the club went and spent money, because it's been far too long for everybody. We've been suffering. You know what I was just saying earlier on in this podcast is that everyone felt suffocated in late December, going into January, when losing a lot of games and nothing was happening. But it was absolutely fantastic. That's enough of Paul. We're going to come on to Kyle in a moment. So Kyle's going to be talking about Keith Downey, the Rafa Benitez saga, the deadline day out, whoever left. There was 523 players left. Jacob Murphy left as well. So he's going to be talking about a few as well. But exactly, Almiron needs time, says Paul. League One reminds me of the Scottish League. Yeah, it is, Liam, but he's performing. I think Takeover was chucked out far too quick. Jody says Huddersfield and Burnley are massive games. More than that, again, later on the week as well. We should be signing £20 million players year after year, says Paul as well. Right, so we're going to come off that and we're going to go back to deadline day. So obviously we grabbed Keith Downey outside the training ground. I was emailing him at work and just said, Keith, you alright if I pop up? And he was like, yeah, no problem. Obviously we know that there was mic audio issues about that, which is a bit of a shame, I know. But he told us that he believes that, because he didn't say this, I'm saying this, is that the journalists have got nothing to talk about. So we all know as fans it's going to be, is Rafa staying? That's all we're going to get for the rest of the season. But what Keith said is, he said that he does believe that will wrangle on and on. He says that the Almiron deal is likely to, I wouldn't say convince him to stay, but help push him to stay. I think he likes it. He likes where he is. He likes that his family's on the Wirral. It's close-ish. You know, it's not a million miles away. You get in the car and you're there in 2.5 hours. 2 hours if you drive fast. Over the league. But what we'll do is we're going to go over to Kyle, and this is what he said about Mr. Downey.
I completely agree with Keith Downey, to be honest. I think it will drag on all the way till the summer. I think it will help Rafa in terms of what he wants by getting Almiron and Barreca in. I think it's them are two players off his list. However, I don't think we completed every signing that we needed to make. I still feel we needed a centre midfielder. I still feel we needed another centre forward. Like, despite we're breaking our transfer record, there is a feeling that we needed a couple of more just for squad depth, because you've looked at the bench a couple of times this season, Lee, and it's the bench has been so so thin. It's just really bad. Like, 5 minutes to go, you bring on Joselu. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't give you the impression that we're gonna go and change something. Do you know what I mean? Like, we need a bit more, but definitely bringing in Almiron shows a bit of ambition and a bit of setting one mark on, because the other teams around were like so.
So that was what Kyle was saying about Keith Downey. Look, it is going to ramble on, and I'm still undecided. I'm still 50-50 whether he stays or not. Personally, for me, let's see what you guys have said, and then we'll move on to all the deadline day players who left. Andy says, agree with Paul, it's embarrassing. It's taken almost 14 years to spend 20 million. So that was going back on the previous topic. Jody says, Rafa knows his future. He's playing mind games with the board, in my opinion. Yeah, he is, Jody. I think you're right. I think he's got every right to. He wants more power. And you can't keep going on and try and skip and scrape, sell a player and then buy a player for the same value. I mean, what's the logic in that? And there's talk that this money was obviously alleged loan to Barclays. It's talk that money that we used for Mitrovic to get Almiron over the line. Look, I think Newcastle fans, if Mike Ashley wants to sell a club, fantastic. If he's not going to put in the money, fair enough, but at least spend the money from the likes of international rights and TV rights from here, like the likes of BT and Sky. At least spend that money. That's all we're asking. And even if Peter Kenyon came in and just, didn't spend loads of money but spent the TV money, at least it's something, you know what I mean? And I think Rafa, I'm so undecided whether he stays or not, and I think it's because I'm torn, because he loves the club. I think it's easy for him, but he wants investment. He's working with one arm tied behind his back, Clint says we could be the richest team in the world, but the fat man runs our club on a shoestring budget. Yeah, nah. But what we'll do is, this is a bit of a long one. Kyle is going to be talking about the 5 lads that left on the under 23s. It's a good 3.5 minutes long, mind. So if you're going to grab yourself a cuppa, grab it now. This is Kyle talking about the 5 players which left on deadline day.
So 5 players that have played now on under 23 team this season and have featured have all went out on loan in January. Starting off with Yanni. I seen him play against Hull in pre-season. I've got to be honest, I thought he lacked a lot of experience. He needs game time, that lad. I think Morecambe is a decent move for him. I think if he impresses, he should go out again next season and hone his craft a little bit before seeing if he can get into the Newcastle squad, because for once Newcastle have decent centre backs and I think it'll be hard to get into that team. The second one being Callum Roberts. I think Callum Roberts did very well against Blackburn, local Shields lad. It's took him a while to get into the squad because he's been hovering around that is he not kind of bracket for quite a while now. So I think the next couple of months at Colchester is a make or break for him. I really hope it works out well for him and they give him a new deal, and also they give him a chance in pre-season, playing him in his proper position and not at left back. The third one, Rolando Aarons, such a disappointment, because a couple of years ago when he burst onto the scene, you thinking this is the next big winger that we could have. When he's at his best, he's exciting, he's got flair, he's got pace, that he can be a really good player on his day. It just seems he's lost all of his confidence, and I don't think it helped him much going out all the way to Slava Prague or whatever. I don't think it really helps, so it is hard for him, but let's see what he can do with Sheffield Wednesday. It is a good platform. They're in trouble down there in the Championship, so it's a good chance for him to really show himself and hopefully win still a place next season for Newcastle squad in pre-season, because Rafa likes to try out a couple of new things. The fourth one being Lazar, the forgotten man. It tells you everything you need to know, mate, to be honest. We've loaned in a player from Monaco that plays in Lazar's position, and Lazar has been more of an Instagram model than out else. So for me, I'm surprised he wasn't sold, to be honest, with a couple of Italian teams snooping around him and things like that. It's very surprising that he isn't actually gone. But it's like Aaron, see if he does anything at Championship level with Sheffield Wednesday. If he can, great. And if he shows that he can do something, it may save we're having to fork out 9 million for Barreca, and we might actually be able to give him a chance. But if not, which I'm expecting him not to, then we can let him go at the end of the season. And the last would be Jamie Sterry. Now it's a hard one with Sterry because he's a local lad, and for me against Blackburn in both games I thought he was really poor. He got exposed quite a lot, especially in the away game. And I think his move to Crewe Alexandra is a good one. He impressed for the League 2 side last season, and I think it makes sense for him to go back. He's been talking about moving house down there and bringing his family with him and his dog. So he's going to be a bit more settled this time to improve and impress. But I think there's a harsh decision to be made in the summer when he runs out of contract. I think he's a great lad in that, but unfortunately, I think it's time for him to move on. He's class lad, but I just don't think he's good enough to be right back for Newcastle United anytime soon.
Are you still awake, people? Are you still awake? Right. Did you take all that in? And that was a very detailed answer. Thank you very much, Kyle. Right. So, he was basically just going on about a lot of the under-23s. Yeah, it took a couple of them. Me and Paul about Jamie Sterry, bless him. I think his future is away from the club. I think Joseph Yarni's a regular. I touched upon this yesterday. Nice to see him playing regular football. I think he'll benefit from that. And then you're talking the other players who are left on loan. Look, they're all, Lazar has got no future for me at the club. Unfortunately, with Ashlas Lazar, Kyle's already touched upon it there, that he's always posting on Instagram instead of actually. It makes itself the question. I mean, where's all the time that Ashraf Lazar's got is posting? I mean, it's about 20 updates per day on Instagram now, to becoming a bit of a joke. Orlando Aarons is the mysterious one. I agree with Kyle there. Got a lot of talent, but what are you doing with that talent? You know what I mean? So, it's an absolute joke as well with Aarons. He needs to. I mean, Kyle didn't even know which club he was at, and that tells its own story about Aarons, because he was at Slovan Liberec and didn't get any assists or goals, which. It's difficult, you know what I mean? But he needs to kick on. You see, if someone comes in for me, and I think for me, Aarons has got a last hurrah in the summer. I think that's it. I think he will train for the first team, and I just think that's it. I think his future's away from me as well. Let's have a look at what you're saying about those lads as well. So Paul says Jamie Sterry will be working at McDonald's in 6 months' time. I don't think he will, Paul, with that money that he's on. So, keep Aarons in the summer, says Andy. Hopefully he can prove himself on loan. Well, hopefully this is the thing, because the Sheffield Wednesday is a good standard, and he might be competing against Lazar, funny enough, for that as well. But I think it's probably his last chance for it as well. And what we'll do next is we're going to talk about the final topic, which is, again, Kyle, don't worry, it's not as long, so we will keep you awake. It's basically about Jacob Murphy. Now, about Murphy, for me, I'll tell him. I just think he's not good enough. And, we're paid 12 million to bad signing by Rafa, his brother, as Kyle's going to touch upon in just a moment. I just think both of them aren't good enough for the Premier League. I think they're great in the Championship, but with Jacob Murphy, it's just he seems so low in confidence. Do you know what and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to him, but he reminds me of Bambi. Someone comes near him, he's scared, he runs away. That's what he reminds me of. But Bambi gained confidence, didn't he? So, he grew into this big, massive deer. Right, we're not talking about Bambi. Get off the subject, Lee. So, with Murphy, I think this is possibly his last chance. I know he's only having one loan out, and that's probably a little bit unfair to say that, but he's going to a team which is winning a lot of games in the Championship. He's there with Dwight Gale, who he knows. He knows a lot of the lads from the England under-21s as well. In an ideal world, I would like West Brom to come up. They can buy Gale, do a swap for Rondon, and they can buy Murphy whilst they're there. I can't see Murphy, unless he has a sudden change of form, staying at the club. I just can't. And this is what Kyle says about Jacob Murphy.
Jacob Murphy, it's a strange one with Murphy, it's because we signed him 18 months ago for 12.5 million. There was so much optimism around him. Could he make the step up to the Premier League? And so far he's proved that his price tag was a bit overinflated, and that we got the wrong player from Norwich. People keep saying the wrong brother, but I don't think he's much good either. I think we should have got James Maddison when we had the chance. He's proven to do wonders at Leicester. But on to Murphy, I just think he's devoid of confidence. And one thing he's never really had is consistency at Newcastle, whether that be consistency in his performances or consistency playing at all, because Rafa, even when he's playing well, Rafa's took him out of the team, so it's not really helping his confidence. But I think with Almiron coming in, it's put Murphy at the back of the list. But I honestly think Murphy wasn't doing as bad as what Kennedy is, and for me personally, I would have sent Kennedy back to Chelsea, put Murphy in his place, and then maybe loan another Premier League midfielder, which we needed, like a Loftus-Cheek or even an Adam Lallana, someone of that quality. So I think we missed out on something there by sending Kennedy back, because I think Kennedy has been worse than Murphy all season. And if I was Jacob Murphy, I'd be a little bit pissed off that Kennedy's still playing for Newcastle and he's away out on loan. I mean, I wish him all the best. I hope he does well at West Brom and helps him in the promotion push. But if he does well, see what happens for the start of pre-season, like with Aarons and Sterry and all those players that are looking to impress with loan moves too.
it's a shame for the lad, isn't it? Because he's, you know, with Murphy, he's like he wants to do well. He got his dream move, and it's just one of them. The poor lad is just not good enough. I'm not being critical, you know what I mean, but yeah. So Paul says sadly, yeah, we paid too much for him. We'll take a big loss on him. Can we leverage Gale and Murphy to get Rondon? It's a good shout, Paul. I think it's something that we could work with as well. Ollie says he's only had 2 or 3 good games for us as well. Fordy's in the live chat as well, friend of the channel. Mr. Fordy, how you doing? You alright? Kennedy's been awful. He won't be back again for us next season. Such a waste of an undoubted talent. And I think it's an area where Newcastle are really weak. Murphy, I don't think is good enough. I don't think Atsu's good enough. I don't think Kennedy's good enough. Richie's okay. He's very hard working. I'll probably keep Richie in the summer, but you just hope that Murphy gets some game time as well, and you just want him to do well. You know what I mean? I mean, Jack says, remember Murphy had that month where he got Player of the Month. Yeah, that was bizarre because Benitez took him out. It was just really, really bizarre because he had that great game against Man City when we got beat, scored a lovely little dink over Edison. Had a great month in January. What was it, 2017 was it, or 2018? 2018 it was, wasn't it, last season? Great. And it's difficult to try and put it. I just think his future's away from it, and I'd love to be proven wrong. I just think it's a big lot of money for him. But that has been your stream. Thank you very much for watching, everyone who's on YouTube as well. If you are watching on YouTube, thanks for interacting on the live chat as well and the comments section as well. Get over to SoundCloud and iTunes because we have another podcast on there as well, which was with our Newcastle Big Club. Have a look at that, and we've got another one talking about all the games also from Manchester United all the way up until current, and that's going to be due out in the next few days as well. So, thank you very much for watching. Of course, this video is sponsored by the OneFootball app. Have a good night, everybody. See you. Bye-bye.